welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerd and nerdettes. Today I am doing a first, as I'm kind of doing a review test of a new blade that I have. Made by Fafnir Forge, it is a single-edged Viking sword. When most people think Viking sword, they tend to think the double-bladed one that they show in all the movies and the shows, but it was actually really common. 1 in every 5 found in Norway had this single-edged look, and it was much easier to produce. A lot of them thought it was made locally. The one thing that I've noticed just in doing this, and I'll go over a little bit more, is it's a little bit of a different feel the way it is, but I think that it has some really great applications because being more the grappler and brawler that I am in my training and everything, I feel like this has some great potential pommel strike application, especially up against a shield wall. The way I really want to do this is do different kind of cutting tests, thrusting tests, melee type tests. Boo! What? Boo! Too much sword content. Not every video can be about archery. You've changed, man. You've changed. I mean, I know, but you gotta like diversify every now and then. People get bored of the same shirtless bow shooting videos over and over. Tell you what, I'll add you in at the end. How does that sound? Really? At the end? Okay, deal. Last test is going to be arrow versus the sword, and I'm serious. We are going to test and see how this blade holds up against a 165-pound bow with a bodkin tip, but that's going to be at the end. Oh boy, I got just the arrow for that sword. So to start, let's talk about movement and dexterity. So the H pommel doesn't really bode well a lot of times for wrist mobility and movement, but I do feel it's got great potential for slashing down. And I think especially in that type of warfare where you're up close to someone and you're shoulder to shoulder, this type of movement or coming over this way would be a lot better than having the ability to do like movements that are more hand and a half base where you're swinging and moving and arcing a little bit more. So I think the side will be good, this side will be good. I think downwards where it's going to shine, and I think the pommel strike is also going to be fantastic. First thing I want to start off with is just against a water ball. I just want to come in across here, slash downwards and across, see how that does. With that, it's going to look cool, cinematic. Don't know what the purpose is, but a lot of people tend to do it. So I'm going to replicate it because I like things to look cool. All right, so we cut through a water ball, no surprise there. Next up we're gonna do is I'm gonna move on to the padded gambeson. So I'm gonna do the dummy here, put a padded gambeson on him and see how that manages with this sword slicing through that, because it is gonna be much more of a slicing sword than a thrusting sword. We have our thick padded gambeson sleeve here. So I'm gonna set this on the side and do a couple slash cuts at it from the angle here, just kind of coming downwards on it to see how that cuts into it with that force. Okay, so cutting wise, that was quite substantial. We had this big cut right in here that went through all the layers and all the padding. This one right here as well actually got caught up a little bit on that thicker weave. This one right here went through just about all the layers. Some really good solid cuts against this. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to add some chainmail to it. As I'm sure you guys know, not all chainmail is created equal. This is flat riveted mail as opposed to butted mail. It's been through a bit already, but I want to try and test it here to see how that does against the rivets with a slash. Obviously, I don't think it's going to do great, but I'm going to come right across here, see what I can do with that plus the padded gambeson. Well, I imagine it's no shock to anyone that you can't slice through riveted males. I think I have a couple breaks in there, some new ones, but nothing serious. Even the thrust had a hard time getting through it because it's not really a thrusting sword. You can see it's got a good tapered point up top there, but it's not really built for a thrusting movement in there. It kind of extends your hand. It's like a handshake grip, so you don't have as much power as you would otherwise. But now on to the pommel. I said before, training wise, most of my background is wrestling, grappling, and jiu-jitsu. That's what I've spent most of my life training in. So striking is something I did boxing here and there, but I definitely feel like for me, the most important thing in any engagement is to close the distance. And I think this would be a fantastic close distance striker. Get against this brick here and just give it a good old pommel strike and see how this thing does against it, because I think it'll look cool. All right, so that was part just for fun factor, part because I think it's a great striking thing, and also a durability test. So this thing held up very well. There's no shake or anything in the pommel after those impacts, because those were really hard impacts on this blade. So it's obviously put together quite well. And again, that just drives the point home to me that this is something that would work really well if you're entangled with someone in a wall. You really aren't going to have time to do sort of fancy movements. If you're shoulder to shoulder, coming up over, boom, and then slashing down or anything like that is going to make a lot of sense. So I feel like this is a really good design for that type of engagement and for that type of battle, because you're not going to have time to really set up and have a dueling stance.
Wait until you're ready.
It's going to be in close, boom, slash down, boom, slash. It's just going to be that real close quarter fighting. Same token, we have our shield. So I think one of the things that's also a strength for this is because if you have a larger shield like this, you really have the ability to kind of come out and in, and can cover a lot of the body area if you're thrusting out like this. So you're not going to be throwing a large arcing swing like this. It's really going to be able to stay in close, and you can move, or you can slash over it, or you can go here, all while keeping that shield right in front of you. Mechanically just moving around, thrusting out, protecting a large portion of that body. But that's not what we're doing. We are going to test to see how it does against the shield. I've heard a few people anecdotally say one of the reasons why you'd have the wood around the side here and not like a metal trim is because when the blade got stuck in the shield, it was really difficult to pull out.
Phrasing. Sure.
And that's actually been my experience here. Once I get it in there, the act of pulling out the sword is a bit difficult. You really have to move it around a lot and wiggle it. And if you get stuck in someone's shield and they have a spear or like a short sword through it, like they can definitely put some work on you there. So that, holds true anecdotally for me as well. So I feel like, yeah, that would definitely work. So the next thing I really want to try is edge to edge contact. I want to see how this does against another blade. This is a 1045 carbon. And obviously if you're fighting well, you don't want to be clashing edge to edge. That's a very Hollywood tropey thing. But I want to test the durability of the actual blade when it hits against the side of another strong carbon blade. So this is going to be edge durability test to see how it does. I'm going to break this thing. I just got it. What do we got here? Well, we had two little cuts and dings in there. This first one right here and the other one here. So this was from the second strike. That was a harder strike that I gave to it. I'll show you what the other sword looks like as well. So here was the cut for the other one. That was a deeper one, so it went more into this sword than the other, deformed it quite a bit. So obviously the other one had a better construction because it wasn't as malleable. It didn't crack, but it did ding in just a little bit, and you can scratch and buff that out. We're gonna get a little more modern on you. This is a 3A / resistant Kevlar. So if you know anything about Kevlar, you know it's meant to stop a high velocity, low mass projectile, which is not what a sword or a bow is for that matter. But just for the heck of it, I want to test and see how it is. Pretty resilient. I've tested against other swords and it's done quite well. So I want to see how this one does. Thrusting is a little funky with that H grip pommel. All right, well, both of those made it through. Not super deep though, and you can see if for nothing less, this thing has a lot of flex in that tang. When that second one went, like I even saw it in real time, but watching back in slow motion, that bend, that was nuts. So it held together very well. And again, this thing has a super thick spine on it right there. So it did very well. I was actually watching like, man, I'm glad it didn't snap in half, but it's holding together great so far. So earning a spot, guys, earning a spot. Anything in my arsenal has to earn it. So far, the coolest thing to me about this is despite all that abuse, the pommel is actually still really tight. I feel like with a lot of swords I get that aren't high quality, there's a lot of bend and break in there. It starts to wiggle a bit, but this is still holding super duper tight. So if you want to know where to get it, check out Cult of Athena. I have an affiliate link down below. I get all my stuff, so it's not really even like a plug necessarily. I buy 90% of my inventory from them as well, but they were kind enough to give me an affiliate link so that if you buy from there, I get, you know, a little bit back to rebuild what I constantly keep breaking. Last time I had Fit From Home on here, we went ahead and we tried to cut an ash shaft with the 1.5-hand sword. Now ash is really good, a strong durable wood. I was able to get through a majority of it with that sword, but I want to try it against this one here, which is going to be more of a slashing sword in general, to see how it performs against that ash pole. So I did have better success with the 1.5 hand, and I think part of that was because when I was hitting it, it was bouncing back. When Art was holding it, he could have a really steady grip, so it didn't give as much, but this was instantly going into the hay and bouncing back. You can see the cuts were right here and here. So I think a big problem with the method of testing there is because it wasn't a stable grip. It was bouncing in and out, but still did very well, and it's still holding together super snugly as well. So good so far. Gentlemen, now we got that poser out of the way. We are back to the fun stuff, the bows and arrow, the war bow. As promised, I got the 165-pound bow here with a 15 to 1600 grain arrow as well. I'm gonna place it right in here. It's a carbon steel tip as well. I'm not gonna be too far, but also I only have one camera, so you're gonna have to just see the shot and the hit, because I can't do them both at the same time. I don't wanna do this multiple times, so enjoy. Our Intrepid, the sword, hold up against the might of the English warbow? Well, exceptionally well. That actually hit in this part right here. So it was right in this area here. It actually ended up, hold on, at the point there. So the arrowhead broke, and that's the steel that's remaining there as well. So it did very, very well. It's got some dings in it, as you can see there, but overall this thing handled amazingly. I am super happy to have it in the arsenal. Put it through the ringer. So I'm gonna go home, clean this thing, polish it up, and proudly use it for the next few videos that I do, because it has earned the right. Guys, I hope you enjoyed. There's a lot of sword content out there. It's not really my thing. I'm more sling, spear, axe, bow, but I had a bunch of fun doing it. Hopefully put my own little twist on it. Sorry if this feels rushed. My phone overheated like 7 times. I had to keep running to my car and cooling it down because it's 110 right now. And I'm gonna go in the pool, so hope you enjoyed. Cause, oh, it was hot.